Mike McCarthy spoke with you guys yesterday, and he talked about the importance of R&R, rest and recovery during this bye week. He's pretty big on it. Mike could talk about how he appreciates how he allows the players to, get away a little bit, reset, and come back at full strength. And we talked about the injury report at the top of this thing. This is the cleanest I've seen it, Pat. I mean, is there anything else that we should know aside from Wanye Thomas, coming back from that hamstring injury?
No.
It's-
That feels great
Yeah.
to say. Let me tell you this, Steele. Yesterday, McCarthy said rest and recovery, and then the intimation was that the Cowboys, as far as active roster goes, was completely healthy. But until you see the injury report, you're kind of keeping an eye out. So when the injury report landed, I literally sat back in my chair and I started wondering, when have I? And when I say I don't only mean me as an analyst of the NFL and me as an analyst of the Cowboys insider. I'm talking about going back. Let's go back to like early 2000s and stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out, when have I ever seen an injury report this clean, particularly at the mid-season point. So I couldn't really register that in my head as far as how long it's been since that's happened. So I went to PR, and of course those injury reports are constructed by PR. One guy in particular, Scott Goldnick, a great guy, and I'm like, Scott, when was the last time you've seen an injury report this clean? And he said, not in his tenure. That's over 20 years.
Jeez.
That's over 20 years. And then on top of that, he threw out the added tidbit that technically even Wanye would not have been on the report. So technically it was almost completely clear, but the league protocol requires that a player who just missed a game has to show up on the next injury report, even if he's a full participant. So that was kind of a technicality for Wanye. So as it stands, of course, we're going into Thursday. So fingers crossed, toes crossed, eyes crossed, because this is the dark day for the Cowboys for whatever reason. But as it stands, the Cowboys active roster, they got LVE on IR, CJ Goodwin on IR, but 96% of the active 53-man roster that they came into this league with, this season with, is fully healthy. And that I can't overstate how that matters, particularly on an offensive line where 3 of your offensive starters were still nursing injuries. Everybody's good to go. So hopefully that continues today, tomorrow, and through the walkthrough on Saturday.
And to boot, right, to add a little sugar on top of this thing, the Cowboys coaching staff is now back at full strength with the running backs coach, Jeff Blasco, and not just running backs coach, but run game coordinator, Jeff Blasco, returning. And we know, Pat, how iffy this run game has been over the last few weeks. How important is it to get Jeff back here?
Man, everybody's healthy, man. Players are healthy. Coaches are healthy. Janitorial staff's healthy. Everybody's healthy. And you got to love it. So, Jeff Blasco, he was on personal leave of absence due to a health issue. He's missed several of the first 6 games of the season. He's back after this bye week. He was back in practice yesterday. But and I mentioned it on yesterday's episode of Cowboys Break. The question was posed, what parts of the Cowboys operation on the field would you like to see improve greatly? And Broadus had a great answer. He said the running game, and he was kind of breaking down why that was. And as he's speaking on it, it struck me in that exact moment that, hey, the run game coordinator is back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that could pay dividends for in a situation where with Blasco out, those duties, that run game coordinator duty and those running backs coach duties had to be relegated to others and split amongst the offensive assistants. But now Blasco's back. It's one guy, it's one mind, it's one vision, and it just makes things that much more concise, that much more clear for guys like Tony Pollard and guys like Deuce Vaughn and Rico Dowdle, who's looked, fantastic. And then getting Hunter Lipke involved. And if you notice, the absence of Blasco kind of coincided with the Cowboys not really knowing how to utilize Deuce Vaughn and Hunter Lipke. So maybe Blasco coming back reinserts what his vision of this run game should be. And it also should help as well as the continuity of the offensive line starts to gel with this being their 3rd game together and now everybody healthy. So, the pieces are coming back for the Cowboys. So I think Blasco returning is going to be good stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned Pollard. Pollard was vocal about that, about his return. He said, quote, "It's good having him back in the room, especially his expertise in the run game or the blocking game and the run game, the way that he coaches up everything in the game, in the run game. Just glad to have him back." So, and that was from Jess over at Pro Football Network. Just having him back seems to light a little bit of fire under those guys. And you said it best, man. It coincides with seeing them not utilize these guys correctly and how it is faded out, really, because the beginning of the year, maybe all these things were installed and ready to go, and you saw this run game kind of just clicking. And then the longer he stayed away, the more it kind of faded on what they wanted to do. So I'm actually excited to see him return.
100%, because when you think about it, when you come into the season, like you said, you have the installs in their set, and then you have Blasco running his install, and you have the passing game coordinator running his install, and so forth and so on. But then when Blasco or any assistant coach is forced out because of a health issue or personal matter, whatever the case may be, then that vision kind of gets diluted because it gets handed off to one or two other individuals who are doing their best to run the vision as well as the initial coach would have. But as good as they are at what they're doing, you're asking them to do their job and take on additional duties, right? So there's the dilution in what may have happened with the run game. That's why you saw, Deuce Vaughn went from, getting some touches to being inactive, right? That's a perfect example of what happened in the absence of Jeff Blasco. So with Blasco returning, maybe we start to see more of an integration of Deuce Vaughn or reintegration of Deuce Vaughn. Maybe we see a ramp-up of Hunter Lipke. And, again, Blasco working with the offensive line coach and making sure that thing is running like a well-oiled machine. I mean, that you can't understate or overstate how important that is. I mean, you got the guy back. It's one man. It's one message. It's concise, and it's just more easily digestible if you're players.
That is the Injury Spotlight presented by OSMI. OSMI provides arthroscopic and robotic-assisted orthopedic surgery, foot and ankle surgery, sports medicine, physical therapy, and a ton more. Their team of orthopedic specialists have offices in Fort Worth, Decatur, and Mansfield to provide state-of-the-art orthopedic care to the North Texas area. When it comes to medical care, you and your loved ones deserve the best possible experience. So schedule your hassle-free appointment today at osmifw.com.